Welcome, art lovers. I'm Spalding Nix of Spalding Nix Fine Art, and today we are going to be discussing collecting art. And before we get started, I thought it would be fun to begin with a pop quiz. I hope everyone is familiar with these two works in front of us. On the left, we've got Rodin's The Thinker, and then on the right, we have Jeff Koons' Balloon Dog. Now, both of these were sold at auction in 2013. The Rodin, which is a iconic sculpture from the late 19th century, sold for over $15 million, and this was a piece that was cast during Rodin's life. The other piece, The Balloon Dog by Jeff Koons, sold the same year for almost 4 times that. It sold for $58 million, breaking the world's record for the highest price ever paid for an artwork by a living artist. And I'm going to let this person in. I'm going to let Jamie handle that. If you don't mind, Jamie. Thank you. So pretty amazing when you think about some of the prices being paid for some of the world's most collectible art, and when you think about which pieces are earning the highest prices. In 2015, 2 years later, this Picasso broke auction records, selling for almost $180 million. Less than a few months later, we almost beat that record again with this Modigliani that sold for $170 million. That record for the Picasso held until in 2017, 2 years later, the Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci smashed auction records, more than doubling the highest price ever paid at auction for a work of art, selling for almost $500 million. That is incredible amounts of money being spent on oil and canvas, or in this case, oil on wood panel. That year was pretty amazing, 2017, because in just 9 lots, in just 9 works of art, we sold almost $1 billion worth of artwork. So we had the Salvator Mundi accounting for almost half of that, but in just the 8 other paintings, almost $500 million. And what I think is so interesting about this is look how diverse the art is. We've talked already about Rodin's The Thinker, as well as the Jeff Koons Balloon Dog. And then here in this wonderful group of 9 pictures, we have Jean-Michel Basquiat, we've got Jeff Koons, we've got Andy Warhol, we've even got old master paintings with this Guardi picture of Venice in the bottom right corner. So I just love how diverse these works of art are when it comes to what we're willing to spend real money on. So let's get started on today. Today we're going to be talking about collecting art, and I really encourage everyone to think of it as a lifelong adventure, a life-enriching adventure, something that you can practice and get better at as you learn more and more about what you like and what you don't like. Today we're really going to be talking about how to develop your tastes, your knowledge, and your relationships in the art world, because all those things are essential if you want to be a knowledgeable art collector. So I'm going to go over 10 tips for us to discuss, and at the end I'm happy to answer any questions or open the meeting up for a discussion. But the most important tip to start with is to look, and to look some more, and then to look again. Spend as much time as you possibly can looking at art. And why is that so important? Well, how do you know what you like? How do you know what you don't like without looking and looking and looking again? And this idea of really training your eye through looking is really the first step to becoming an art collector. What you like and what you don't like, that reaction is really up to you. That should not be, told to you or taught to you. What you like is based on your own reaction, and that's what matters. So really look for things that really intrigue you. We're talking about finding items that create a reaction. Sometimes it's a reaction because you love it. Sometimes it's a reaction because you don't love it. And learning what you love and what you don't love, what you like and what you don't like, is what is really that first big step to becoming a collector. And I love to think about looking in terms of 3 steps. There's analysis, when we first see a painting and we sort of take it in, looking at its formal elements. And then description, how do we describe what we see? How do we articulate what we see? And then making a judgment on whether I like it or not. How do I react with this painting? So when I go to a gallery or when I go to a friend's home who has a fun art collection, I always try to have a strategy so that I'm not overwhelmed by all the beautiful things that I see. And usually when I go to a museum, when I go to a gallery, I try to take a slow walk around the space, around the exhibition, before I get into the details of reading the wall text. So my strategy for viewing is, go ahead and get a big picture view of what we're looking at. And then we can start drilling down. So as you're taking this slow walk around the gallery, what sticks out to you? Which pieces are calling to you? Which pieces are you reacting to? When you have those moments, stop, go over, stare a while, get close, look for the marks from the artist's hands, really analyze that picture. I love looking for surprises, even with paintings that I've seen over and over again. A great work of art should constantly be revealing little secrets and surprises to you. The more that you spend the time to analyze, to look, and to stare at that painting. So take your time. Don't get caught up with all the details quite yet. Really look for things that speak to you. And then once you feel like you have sort of made your own assessment of the picture, go back and look at those wall texts. What sort of other information do they offer? For me, Kenneth Clark's phrase, context is meaning, is always so important, because the more that you learn about a work of art, maybe it's the artist's history or the history of the work of art itself, the more you can appreciate it. So once you have taken the time, and all of these things take time, you can't be rushed. You've made your assessment of the gallery. You've responded to those pieces that stick out to you. You've spent some time with them. And then you've had a chance to learn whatever other information is there. Then you can make your judgment about how you have experienced this picture. And then repeat. That's the fun part. So you've had that one experience, and you've made those assessments, you've described that picture, you've made your judgment. Now move on to the next one and see what happens. And that can be really fun, especially in a museum exhibition like a retrospective, where you have multiple works by the same artist. You can watch how this artist has progressed over the course of their career, and get to know them better and better through each picture. Sometimes it can be overwhelming when you've got hundreds of great works of art to assess in an hour. Oops, sorry. Go back here. Present. All right. And then when I go to museums, I always try to have a strategy. The first thing that I lay out is how long am I going to be there? I think our minds can only process so many beautiful works of art in a period of time. I like to go for small periods, maybe an hour to 2 hours. If I'm, at a great institution like the Met or the Louvre, maybe I take 2 hours off, go outside, get a bite to lunch, and then come back. Are you there to go trophy hunting like all the people in this photograph at the Louvre? They're there to check the Mona Lisa off their list. Or are you there to take a detour and go to a part of the museum that you haven't experienced before? Go to one of those quiet spaces that are not overwhelmed by visitors. I always recommend, whenever you are planning to go to a museum or when you arrive at a museum, check and see what the tours are that day. It's always great, especially when you're in a big institution, to have the helping hand of a docent or even an audio tour, wearing the headphones to take you on a more directed tour of the space. And most institutions, these docents take it like it's their calling, and you can learn so much from spending an hour with them. If you're at a big show and it's one of the blockbuster shows, I try to do them backwards. I always think it's fun to start at the end and work our way back in time. And sometimes that makes experiencing the exhibition easier because people tend to bottleneck at the beginning and then speed up their pace as they make their way out. And I can't say enough good things about evening hours at the museum, whether it's the Louvre on Thursday nights. They usually stay open until 9 o'clock. The Met has great weekend hours, and it is so wonderful to have the museum to yourself in the evening. What a great way to end the day. I can't encourage you enough to take advantage of those evening hours with museums. So again, look some more. There's so many opportunities to do that. We talked about museums and galleries. Auction houses before big sales often have exhibitions that rival that in great museums. In the pre-COVID world, art fairs were such a wonderful way to see a lot of art under one roof. Hopefully we'll go back to that soon, although they've had some successful virtual art fairs lately. We've all become such connoisseurs through our phones. Talk about looking. Things like Instagram, I believe, are good when it comes to learning more about art because we are constantly training our eye when we're flipping through our phone. And online, there's lots of opportunities. We show our work not only on our website, but through platforms like First Dibs and Artsy and ArtCloud. And each platform has fun tools that you can use to help figure out, sort of what you're looking for. So let's go to our next tip. Focus. Find an area of focus. Don't flip from one area to another. Find something that you really respond to, something that intrigues you, that you react to, and then start drilling down. You can focus on subject. Here in Atlanta, the Whelans have a private collection that you can make arrangements to go see. It has a very simple focus. It's subject matter. And the Whelan collection is the thread that runs through all of it is each piece has to have a house in it. Very simple idea, but it makes for a really exciting collecting experience. The Whelans made their fortune building houses, and now they have a beautiful warehouse filled with great works of art of houses. Very simple, but it really does work. You can focus on medium. Elton John in the early 90s decided that he wanted to collect art, and he'd always been attracted to photography, and he did a deep dive on it, collecting not only the old masters of photography, but contemporary artists, and just focusing on that one thing, focusing on a medium, one over another. That could be your focus. It could be genre. At the High Museum, we have a great permanent collection of folk art, and so much fun to not only pick perhaps a subject or a medium, but just to open it up a little bit with a wider genre. Look within this group. We've got works on paper, we've got quilts, we've got sculpture. So it can be lots of movement within your focus. So it shouldn't be limiting, but it should help you at least stay on target. Our third tip, listen and learn. It is so important to look, like we already said before, and be true to yourself. But I do think that you buy with your eyes and your ears. Remaining true to yourself, I think it's always a good idea to seek input from those with more knowledge and experience. So who are those people? It can be the artists themselves. It can be fellow art lovers. It can be gallerists, collectors, curators, docents, you name it. There are so many opportunities to listen and to learn. Here's a docent taking a group on a tour at a museum. she's offering context so that you can fully appreciate those paintings. What a great opportunity that is. And look for those experiences where you can together come and sit down and be educated, whether it's through artist talks. Openings are always so much fun because the artists are there, their fans and friends are there, all talking about that artist and their work. Presentations like this. There's so many wonderful documentaries out there in this COVID world where we can't get out like we'd like to, but if you still want to learn, lots of great podcasts. I love Art Curious podcast. Lots and lots of opportunities to listen and to learn. Fourth tip is know the market. And the art market can be a dangerous place. So that's why I think it's really important to spend some time learning how the art market works. An informed purchase is the best purchase. So if you have done your research, if you have listened and learned, then you can be confident in making the best purchase that you can. How do we do that? Well, you need to do your homework. I know that a lot of us, when we talk about art collecting, we're talking about buying, works of art, $800, $1,500, $5,000. We're not all talking the same language of $170 million Modiglianis. But I do think that taking a macro approach and looking at the art market as a whole can be really informative. And I always look forward to the art market report. Comes out every year. Art Basel and UBS, they are the sponsors for this. It's written by a cultural economist, and it's really fascinating. It's free. You can download it. It's a little dry, but it does give you a comprehensive look at the global art market, and I highly recommend everybody spending a little time with that. One of my favorite things about being an art collector is the chance to build a library. Really have fun filling your shelves with great art books, and they can be fiction. I loved Steve Martin's An Object of Beauty. It's a great story of intrigue revolving around the New York auction world. Or you can read something that's a little more analytic. Doug Woodham, who joined us for Culture Club a couple of years ago, former North American head of Christie's, he wrote a great book about collecting in the 21st century. So lots of fun opportunities to read anything art related. There's all sorts of great magazines you can subscribe to, really let you know what's going on out there in the art world. But I will say, buyer beware. One thing about the art world that is surprising to most people is how little regulation there is. When you buy a house, there's quite a paper trail. When you buy a $450 million work of art, there is little to no paper trail. So it does open up opportunities for bad people to make some bad decisions. Insider trading, price manipulation, false attributions, fakes, forgeries, you name it. They are all in there within the art market. That's why you do have to be careful. And even this painting, the Salvator Mundi, there are lots of accusations about false attributions. Is it a fake? Is it a forgery? What is it? That even are swirling around this picture, which is one of the most, one of the biggest sale. That is the biggest sale that the art world has ever had. So getting back to the fun side, what I love about collecting art is that it's such a great social opportunity. I know that, again, we're in the midst of the pandemic, but hopefully one day soon we will get back to celebrating together. We love the artists that we work with. We love the collectors that we work with. We love the art lovers that we work with. And we all get to come together 6 times a year for openings. Such a great social activity that I look forward to. We have great openings as well as artist talks. Look for guided tours. Going to an auction is a very social event. And a lot of the nonprofits, a lot of the museums that we love have great fundraisers and galas, all very social. So what I love about all these things is you don't have to worry about what to talk about, because guess what? What you are there for is the art. Everybody's there to discuss it, look for those surprises, be intrigued, have a reaction together. And that's why I think art is such a fun social activity. I was recently at an MBA class at Emory, and the teacher spends a couple of days during this MBA program talking about the art world. And he said, even if you are not interested in art, you have to be able to talk a little bit about the art world, because the richest people, that is something that they all share. Because he said, you can be at a meeting, a dinner, let's say in Berlin, and you've got a Saudi prince at the table. You've got a German investment banker at the table. You're an American, you're at the table. You've got someone from an investor from China at the table. After you talk about, wine for a minute, maybe family for a minute, what can you talk about that's not going to be, confrontational, adversarial within a group like that? Well, they all can talk about art. They can talk about the fairs they attended. They can talk about the auctions that they just went to. They can talk about the art that they purchased. So I love that idea that even at the highest level, that art is a great, can be a great bonding event. So, sixth tip is to stretch. What does that mean? Well, it means set a budget. Say that, we are going to set aside, let's say it's $5,000 to spend on a great work of art for this space in our home. And really take your time trying to find the best work of art that you can within that budget. And if you do see something that, demands a little bit of stretching, maybe it's worth it. You know why? Because most works of art that you spend quality time researching, waiting for the right piece that really speaks to you, that's a work that may stay with you for the rest of your life. It's not a car, it's not a television or some piece of electronics that are going to be completely useless in a few years. This is something that may continue to speak to you for the rest of your life. So stretching when it comes to finding the best that you can afford can be a good idea. I love this painting by Turner, and all of us just spend a second taking a deep breath with this picture. It's an Italian landscape. You can see the bridge there. There's a tower there. So modern, considering when it was painted in the early 19th century. Lord Duvine, who was a great art dealer in the late 19th, early 20th century, said, if I owned that picture, I should want nothing else in the world. And I know a lot of art collectors who feel that way about pictures in their collection. There sometimes can be those paintings that just continue to speak to you throughout your life. And those are the pictures that we're looking for. But talking about budget, you've got to remember, this is a great phrase from Doug Woodham, means and desire make the buyer. How much money do you have, and how badly do you want it? That idea of a pain threshold when it comes to buying art is something that should be discussed so that you can manage expectations and be ready to make those big purchases when the time does come. So talking about the time and stretching your budget as best you can, always remember there's lots of different levels to the art world. We can talk about medium. These are two compositions by Frank Stella, very similar. One is an original oil painting. It sold at auction for a little over $1.5 million. The one on the left, these are lithographs. These are prints. And you can buy these for less than $3,000. So if you love an artist, if you love a particular piece that you can't afford as an original oil painting, always look to see if there's a comparable lithograph or a comparable drawing, or maybe a smaller scale work that you can purchase. We recently sold these 3 lino cuts by Picasso. These sold for $41,000 for all 3. They were really, that's a great deal for those 3 pieces. 100 times that, you could buy this oil painting. It's the same subject from about the same time, but again, if you can't afford that original oil piece, maybe you can afford a beautiful print. Our 7th tip is, keep your ear to the ground. Pay attention to those emerging artists. And here we have some great SCAD stars, Michael Porton there on the right, who have some of his work in our upcoming ensemble show. Have fun finding out about opportunities in your community to enjoy works of art from emerging artists, from art students. SCAD has an open studio sale every year. It's always a great party, lots of fun, but you can really find some high quality works of art for a reasonable price by these emerging artists. And as we talk about the top end of the market, don't forget those emerging artists. There's lots of great opportunities there. You just gotta, take your time, do your research, look, and look. One thing to remember about art is the idea of upgrading over time. Just because you bought something when you were on vacation, in your 20s, or right after in your early 30s, don't feel wed to that picture forever. If it doesn't continue to speak to you, it's okay to sell it. It's okay to learn from your mistakes. And as you look some more, you are going to train your eye. You're going to learn more about what you like and what you don't like. If you come to the conclusion that you do not like something that you purchased, it's okay to sell it. One problem that we often have is we buy something, it gets hung over the mantle, and then over time it loses, the surprises give out, or we lose interest in it, but it stays there over the mantle. Always be thinking about upgrading over time so that you can fill your life with a collection that inspires you. What do we do when it is time to sell? First, you got to manage expectations. If you bought something in the retail market, you are now entering a different world, the secondary market. So we're moving from the retail market, the primary market, to the secondary market, which is the resale market, which for fine art is usually at auction. As an appraiser, we usually talk about these 2 levels of the market as replacement value. That's what you'll often see on your insurance schedules, versus fair market value, which is what is it worth if we had to go sell it today in that secondary market. And just as an example, you can go right now on rowgallery.com or firstdibs.com, and Row Gallery will sell you this Salvador Dali lithograph here on the left of the melting clock for $7,500. This print recently sold at auction for $776. So it sold for almost a tenth of what you could buy it for in the primary market. Now, is that true for all works of art? No, but there are some items that in the retail market that sell for quite a pretty penny that it's hard to get some of that money back in the secondary market. Right now, we do have a perfect storm. We have lots of supply as the baby boomers are downsizing, passing away. This supply of stuff, whether it's art or furniture, is all hitting the secondary market. And then the next generation, they have little to no interest in a lot of the baby boomer stuff. So that makes for very little demand. So lots of supply, very little demand, and it's often hard to get good prices for items that the baby boomers may have paid a lot of money for. So now what? You have 5 choices that you can make. You can decide to keep the item. You can throw it away. I've seen that happen. You can give it to someone, maybe give it to a friend or a nephew or somebody who needs, who's just getting started and does want to have something to hang over the mantle. You can sell it. We already talked about the auction world. You can sell it on consignment, maybe work with the artist to find a new home for it, or you can donate it to an institution like a museum. If we're talking about selling things, again, we already talked about auctions, consignments. You can sometimes work with the artist or a gallery to coordinate a private sale. And then at sort of the bottom of that list for items that don't need to be sold at auction, Atlanta is a great estate sales town, lots of opportunities to sell that way. I love this graph here on the right, which sort of walks you through the different steps you can take when you're deciding on whether to sell something. And sort of at the end, it has, selling something at auction, selling something at a yard sale, donating it, selling at an online auction, or selling it on consignment. So those all fall in to the 5 buckets that we talked about when we are deciding on what to do with our stuff. The 9th tip is trust yourself. I just can't say it more, and just can't say it enough. Really go with your gut. Be true to yourself. Take the time to really look to find those pieces that really speak to you. What do you connect with? Hold on one second. Really buy what you love, but avoid infatuation. Someone told that to me early in my career, and I just think that's such a wonderful thing to remember. Sometimes, we go to a fundraiser and there's an auction, and in that moment, your friend is buying this, and you see this piece and you like it, and just be careful about getting caught up in the moment. Avoid infatuation. Sleep on these big purchases so that you get them right the first time. It is about passion, but it's also about being informed. And that goes back to the idea of look, 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 listen, and learn. All those tips that we talked about are really to make it so that you can buy what you love without following trends. So trust yourself. And that trust that you have within yourself about what you like and what you don't like is all based on looking and listening. All right, one last tip. I can't stress how much fun it is to support a museum. Find an institution that you feel passionate about, and get involved. There is something for everyone out there. Here in Atlanta, we have so many great institutions. I didn't even come close to listing them here on our slide, but the Atlanta History Center, the High Museum, the Carlos Museum. It's an incredible repository of Greek and Roman and Egyptian art right here in Atlanta. And we've even have our own museum for contemporary art of Georgia, Mocha GA. So all these fun niches, all these places to go and learn. The Georgia Museum of Art in Athens, what a beautiful permanent collection, beautiful space. The Morris Museum in Augusta, Georgia. So many great museums that deserve and require your support. So please take some time to renew your museum membership, especially in this time of COVID. They all really need our support. So there you have it. We've walked through our 10 tips for collecting art. I hope that you'll continue to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and please sign up for our newsletter. Our next show opens this Friday and Saturday. It's going to be really spectacular. About half of how I spend my time is as an appraiser. If you ever have any questions about having works of art appraised for, it's the 4 Ds now: death, debt, divorce, disaster, and insurance. I'm happy to help. And then we did it. So again, thank you to all the art lovers who joined us here today. what a fun opportunity to discuss collecting art with you. I hope that you will spend some time looking this fall and hopefully falling in love with that next great work of art. So again,